Last night, Jimmy and I had to come to terms with some really difficult thoughts about Kent and the things that he was hearing and the things that he sees.
As an investigator, it's my job to look at this from multiple angles. Because of that, I have to humor the idea he's faking it.
I was really concerned that Kent was hearing things that Jimmy and I just were not hearing.
There's no way a car would. Do you hear that? It sounded like a kid's voice right in front of my face.
I felt guilty because I had to think about that. Regardless of how real it may be, I still had to look at it in a perspective of it's potentially not real.
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Just said Jimmy.
Hi. That was insane. So going into this was very challenging in the sense of not hyping myself up and not getting myself too wired into one particular idea. If he was faking it or if he was over exaggerating it, I am fully prepared to expose that.
He says, well, I'm Kent or Birds or whatever he says, and I've been talking to your cousin. So what, what cousin, And he says, your cousin Jenny. Well, my cousin Jenny died in the 70s. She was murdered by a serial killer, her husband. A week later, we went to where my cousin was murdered, where she was dismembered, her head cut off, her hands cut off.
Jesus.
Look at the guy spread her out all over the place. All we have and were buried was her head and her hands. We were out there and he had me digging holes. I'm digging. He said, I gotta have a cigarette. He runs off to his car. Next thing you know, he's like, oh, look at this. And right there on top of the pile are bones.
Oh my God.
What it was trying to keep me around for that clout. My family's tragedy, he was selling on me. He worked off that thing for a while. Never once did we hear anything that remotely resembled my cousin coming to a spirit box or anything. Never did we get any sort of answer that would have signified that she was communicating with us. And then he just dropped it because he moved on to something else.